I'm Isaac. I'm going to skip to that page. And I really appreciate actually how Alex said my last name. It's Isaac Beevor, but if you want to say it Isaac Beevor, then that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you. I'm Isaac. I'm from Climate Measures UK. We rate and assess councils through the Council Climate Action Scorecards. It's the only UK-wide assessment of councils and their climate action. And we use FOIs for a limited number of questions because we consistently hear from councils that we absolutely shouldn't use them, but we can consistently tell them that we should for a number of different reasons. And the reasons we use them, obviously, is because we think that a lot of this information isn't very publicly available, and councils don't often publish that information in a very standard format either. And if we ask them and we didn't use FOIs in the same way, then we're unlikely to get a consistent response. We actually get around 95% of councils answer FOIs, so it's a really good way of actually getting that information. These are some of the topics we talk about. So we ask about the average EPC rating of social housing. We ask about what renewable tariffs they use in terms of procuring their own energy, but also what energy, if they produce any renewable energy themselves. This is one of my favourite ones. We ask about the minimum energy efficiency standard enforcement, which is how they enforcing standards with private landlords. And then other questions we ask about is their staff capacity in terms of climate. So if they've got staff on retrofit, planning ecologists to enforce biodiversity net gain, and the staff they have on climate. And we also ask 2 FOIs solely to the mayoral authorities as well, which is around the percentage of electric buses in their fleets and also their green skills training. So how many people have been trained in green skills courses in there and across their area that they provide. So this is some of the stuff that we do. One of the things that I think and why I've been asked to come here is that we manage these FOIs in a lot of different ways. We obviously send these FOIs to about 400 UK councils. And so there's around 4,000 questions and FOIs that we actually have to manage. And one of the ways that we do this is by using volunteers who actually turn up to do the quite unsexy work of marking and assessing councils on their climate action, but also processing all of these FOIs to create the action scorecards as well. So we trained about 50 residents last year, worked with us and volunteered with us to process and capture the data from all these freedom of information requests. We estimate that's around 700 hours of volunteering across the whole board. And we also train these volunteers outside of just how to use FOIs, but also in the local climate policy programme, which is our introduction and course into what councils are doing on climate and how they work. And we think the Council Climate Action Scorecards as a whole is the largest UK citizen data project on climate. And obviously the scorecards are powered by volunteers. So over 250 volunteers got involved in the scorecards and how they work, with 50 of those managing and capturing the data from the freedom of information requests that we sent. This is some of the headlines from the data that we got in 2025. So there's only 4 mayoral authorities that have over 10% of their bus fleet that's electric. There's only 35% of local authorities that have lobbied the UK government on climate action, which is down from previous years. So it's gone down from 43% to 35%. We think that's because less Labour councils are lobbying a Labour government, which is really a shame. We also have seen councils drop their use of renewable energy tariffs as well. We think that's partly down to cost and budget saving. One of the things that I think is a real shame is that only 37% of councils are actually conducting investigations or enforcing the energy efficiency standards on landlords, which is one of their main powers to ensure that housing is dealt with across their local area. And some of the good stuff is that they have worked really hard in terms of getting the energy efficiency of their social housing higher and their employment of different staff to help them do that. Some of the impact that we've had is that we have secured multiple exclusives over the years. So if there's any journalists in the room that want to work with us in future, we've got different stories into lots of different papers. So some of these into the eye, obviously on the electric bus fleet, but also on the minimum energy efficiency standards. We also got a story as well on the council housing and the average of energy efficiency of it into the Financial Times. So we think that's one of the best ways that obviously we're compiling this data that's not easily available and across the whole of the UK. And so we've had quite a bit of interest from journalists into the different stories that we're able to produce. And then just a little bit on our impact as a whole across all of the scorecards. So we have over 85,000 people have used the scorecards website in the first 6 months since launching. And we've had over 100 media hits in total, which includes obviously the Eye, BBC London, and lots of other local media outlets. And crucially, and this is why we create the scorecards, we have councils and campaigners using the scorecards. And there's a quote here from Lucy Bolton, who is the climate officer at Rotherham District Council, which says that I'm now using the scorecards regularly in the implementation of the climate action plan. And that's the kind of impact that we want to see in terms of council climate officers, but also campaigners using the scorecards to actually push their councils to go further and faster with climate action. And that's because what we believe is that if you actually provide better data, more publicly available data, alongside people pushing internally and externally with councils, you lead to more effective and further and faster climate action. Finished. All good. Thanks so much.